Hey guys, today we're going to learn the basics of the product rule. So I'm calling this video Product Rule Part 1. So for starters, what we're doing is when we see the multiplication sign between two variables, we need to do something special with them, okay? So we've practiced combining like terms with addition and subtraction, combining those variables. But now we're to the point where, well, what if it's a multiplication sign? So what do I do when I have two variables with the multiplication sign in between? The first step that you need to do is decide which of these variables are like terms. Which ones are alike? So you need to define the like variables. That's step number 1. Whether it's in your head or you're regrouping them to put them next to each other. Step number 2. Now that you have found your like variables, you need to combine them by adding their exponents. So go ahead, pause the video if you need to, write down these 2 steps, and then I'll show you an example. All right, I have 2 examples for you on the board right now. So the first example that I have says m squared times m. There's only 2 variables, only 2 terms in this expression. M and m are like variables. So what I'm gonna do is I've already did step 1. I found the like variables. In this case, there were only 2 and they happen to be alike. Now I'm gonna do step number 2 and I'm gonna combine them by adding their exponents. So when I look at this first one, I notice the exponent is 2. But when I look at this second one, I don't see an exponent. That would be the invisible 1. Anytime you see a variable by itself, it has an exponent of 1. So if you need to remind yourself, go ahead and put a 1 above the m. So my final answer, when I'm going to use the product rule to simplify this expression, I'm going to take my like variable and write that down first, which is m. Now I'm going to add the exponents. So I'm going to end up with a 2 plus 1. I'm going to simplify this down even further. So I get m to the 3rd, or m cubed. And that is my final answer for that first example. Go ahead, if you need to pause this video, write down this example. For my second example, I have x cubed times y times x squared. So step number 1, I'm going to find the like variables. I notice that x and x are like variables. Y is different. It's not like them. I don't have any other y to combine with that one, so I'm gonna leave the y alone for now. Right now, I'm gonna pay attention to my like variables, x and x. Just like in example 1, I'm going to bring down an x because that is the like variable. Next, I'm going to add the exponents. So I notice the first one has a 3, the second one has a 2. And this 3 plus 2. Now, we left the y alone, but what we're gonna do is add it on in the end, since we're not touching it now. We're just gonna leave it alone. We're gonna take care of those like variables, simplify those ones down, and then we'll add on that y in the end, because it can't just disappear. Sorry, you can't just erase it off your paper. All right. X to the 3 plus 2, I can simplify that down further, 2x to the 5th. So now, my final answer, I've combined any like terms that I can using the product rule. I couldn't do anything with the y, so I'm gonna leave it in my final answer. My final answer is x to the 5th times y. So in order to do the product rule, remember, look for those like variables. The 2 m's were a like variable. I ended up with 1 when I combined them. The 2 x's were a like variable. I ended up with 1x because I combined them. The same thing happens if you were to have 3. You would only end up with 1 of them in the end. One more example for you that I want you to write down is I have a times b squared times b times a cubed. So now I notice a cubed. Those are all like variables. But I also have a b and a b. So b squared and a b. So what I'm gonna do is in my first spot, I'm gonna combine all of the a's by using the product rule. So I'm gonna write down the like variable, which is a, and I know that I need to add the exponents. Okay, well this one doesn't have one. Right, it's invisible, it's that invisible 1. So I know I have a 1. Again, that invisible 1, I'm gonna add it to remind myself it has a 1, not a 0, a 1. And then my final one is a 3. Okay, now I'm gonna bring down a multiplication sign, and I'm gonna look at that second variable that I notice is reoccurring. So I have b. I'm gonna bring down that like variable b, and notice, okay, so I have b squared and b to the first. Anytime I don't see that exponent, I know that it's 1. So I'm going to have a 2 plus 1 for the b. Okay, I'm not done yet. I do not want these plus signs in the exponent area. I need to keep simplifying. So I have 1 plus 3. So my final answer for a is going to be to the 5th power. Bring down my multiplication sign. This multiplication sign just comes from the original expression. Everything's combined using multiplication here. b to the 2 plus 1. So that gives me a 3. I cannot simplify any further than that because a and b are not alike. And let's see, did I leave anybody up here? Nope. I accounted for everyone up here and they show up down here. So all we did was we took this long expression and we simplified it by combining like terms with the product rule to get this nice shorter expression. So remember, sometimes you might have 3 pieces to combine that are similar. You still end up with 1a at the end. Just make sure you have the 3 exponents being added. And sometimes you will have another set of like variables that you need to take care of, okay? So always be looking, just like I did, I underlined the a's once, I underlined the b's twice to tell myself, okay, there's 2 different pieces that I'm going to have to simplify and use the product rule with. So there you have it. There's your introduction to the product rule. Be looking out for video part 2 where we take it to the next step. So just make sure that you watch this video, that you've written down these steps and that you've written all the examples, and just take time to look at them and make sure that you understand them. See ya.